Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be discussing the meta, and I'll be doing some topic videos like this in the future. But before we get into that, I have two announcements to make. First off, I'll be hosting a tournament, co-hosting a tournament in Sacramento. There will be up to $10,000 in prizes. It's in about a month. I'll leave a link in the description to the website for more details. I hope to see some of you guys there. So second off, I am now in Master.gg. I will be coaching, and I will leave a link in the description there as well. If you want any lessons, I will be available. So let's get into the video. So I'll be doing a topic series like this in the future. You guys can leave any comments, likes that you want for future videos and topics that you want me to discuss. But I'm really excited to do this. This is something I'm passionate about. So we'll have three things that I'll be talking about for the most part today. So this is going to be obviously a discussion about the meta in general. But first off, I want to define the meta and then kind of talk about how it applies to Clash Royale. And then finally do more specific stuff with how the meta functions and what decks are currently being used. So first off, meta, for video games at least, is defined as the most efficient tactic available. And I think that's really important because I think people understand meta as well, like what cards are being used the most, but they don't necessarily understand exactly what it means. And it means most efficient tactic available. And that's really important for Clash Royale because people want to win, right? So if you want to win, you're going to use what's the best, the most efficient tactic available. So that's why I kind of have a problem with people being like, oh, I don't like it because it's a meta deck. Why do you have to use meta decks? Why don't you use anti-meta? And I got a lot of that after King's Cup when I beat Molt. But those are mostly people that didn't like me, and they're big fans of Molt, so I can kind of understand that. But the thing that's really important to note is, especially within, I'm talking from a competitive and pro player standpoint, we play what's good because we want to win. And we're going to use what is the most efficient, what wins the most for us, and what we feel the most comfortable on. And oftentimes that isn't going to be a deck that isn't very good. And the thing is, we don't really care about specific cards, and there are no cards within Clash Royale. You're never going to beat a pro player by just, I mean, unless you counter deck them, of course, like you have a counter, and even then you can lose if they play it well. The thing is, you're never going to win by not having skill. Every pro player has to have skill to beat another pro player. So there's no such thing as no skill cards like RG and stuff. I know they can be annoying to play against. Same thing with Zap Bait at times and Expo. But the thing is, we use the best cards available and we want to win. So you can't really knock people for using meta decks. And the thing is that I'm going to go on to discuss a little bit more is the meta is never like one thing, and it's never the same thing for a patch. That's like really important. So I'll verge into that a little bit. So people will be like, oh, it's a meta deck. Why do you have to use something popular? And then they're like, oh, I'm an anti-meta player, so I always counter the meta and I win that way. The thing is, that's exactly the thing. If an anti-meta deck, a deck you make or a deck you see that isn't used as often, if it's good and it does well against like every deck in the current meta, it becomes the new meta. So it's hard to claim anything as an anti-meta deck unless the deck is just straight up bad. I mean, it's the truth. It's like, if a deck is good, it becomes a new meta. The way you can understand this is within a current patch, like say this patch for example. When it first went through, Giant Lightning was the big thing, and people were switching around decks, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Prince, and especially within competitive meta where it develops really fast. Of course, this isn't ladder so much because card levels factor into ladder. It's friendly battles that we use for tournaments and brackets and whatnot. But the thing is, when I'm playing a tournament, or not necessarily a tournament, when a patch comes out, people will use, like, Giant Lightning was really good at first. No one uses Giant Lightning in the competitive meta really anymore. Like, very few at least. More people use Golem, actually, but that's not the point. The point is, decks that counter other decks become meta, and the decks that counter those decks become meta. I will see completely different decks being played at the end of this patch than I did at the beginning of this patch. And that happens every single patch. Like, different decks become good because the meta is currently changing, and oftentimes people look to the top of the ladder or pro players for the meta. So in a way, we shape the meta. Also, big YouTubers when they make videos such as Yarn. But the point is there is no such thing as an OP meta deck within one point in time because that deck probably won't be being used in 2 weeks. Except for it's like Minor Control where it can almost always be used. But even Minor Control faded out of the meta at one time without having any changes. Like, the cards are never buffed, but they still become good. Like, you don't see didn't see a ton of Mega Minion after it got nerfed, and it's starting to be used again because it's a unique card that works well with a bunch of stuff. That's maybe not the best example. But for example, arrows are being ran a lot more at the beginning of this patch when minions first started. When minions were being used, like Musketeer minions were used a bunch last patch, but they're not as much anymore. The main point I'm trying to make though is that the meta constantly evolves, and there's no one thing. So I don't really understand complaints. Just wait a week, and different decks will be being used, honestly. And I think the main thing you have to be good at with this game is adaptation. There's no reason to complain about decks you don't like. Either play them or counter them. That's my philosophy. Either you play the decks that you say are OP and annoying, and you master them, or you master their counter. And the thing is, they probably won't be used in a couple weeks anyway, as far as friendly battles go anyway. I really suggest you guys get into like game battles and MLG. They just set that up. It's friendly battles, like a ladder for friendly battles. It's really cool. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. So that's my main point. And let me go into a little bit more further discussion about the decks that are currently being used, because you guys want to know that, I'm sure. So Golem is really good. Golem Pump is really good right now. Three Musketeer Pump is actually becoming a thing. And I'm sure you can just look up, like get on Twitter and find some top players, or look at the top of the ladder and you'll see most of these decks. And then Zap Bait Rocket is becoming really good. Golem, I already said Golem. Bowler Freeze is still good. Bowler Graveyard Freeze, and this is a ladder deck that you're seeing right now, but it can change a little bit, like Bowler Knight, Executioner sometimes. Executioner's really good still. Yeah, he's definitely not phased out of the meta just yet, but he will be once the patch comes through and he gets weakened, which will be really interesting. So my overall point is just, yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about the meta. I'll have more topics in the future, but those are points I really wanted to get across. The whole like making your own deck thing and then claiming it, I don't really understand that. Every deck gets used by every single player, and if you're successful with it, other people are going to copy it. It's not like you can copyright a deck. So that's just kind of my thing. That's a little annoyance I've had, but it's a point that I really want you guys to understand. I think it's really important, and because at times people get down on themselves, and of course if you lose to the same deck over and over again, I don't blame you. But yeah. So that's something I want to get across. I'll be doing more videos like this in the future. I can talk about Clash Royale for hours. So if you guys have any other topics you'd like me to discuss, please recommend those in the comments, and I will catch you guys next video. Thank you for watching.